Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Dezi, and you're in the place to be if you love all things magical, mystical, and mysterious. Today's video topic is 15 different types of witches, their categories. Now I want to preface this video with saying these are not all the witches out there. It is actually impossible for me to name them all. This video, its purpose is actually just for you guys to get the juices flowing on areas that you would like to look into, different areas of witchcraft that you would like to learn about and maybe try out. This is not saying that you have to practice a certain way or you have to do all these things that each witch does in their practice to be said witch, but these are just areas in which you can learn to explore. This is my way of showing you different categories within witchcraft that you can explore. You can be all of these things, you can be none of these things, you can be a combination of these things, and you can be more than what I can say here. This is just a fun video to kind of get the juices flowing and the ideas sprouting, if that makes sense. With 15 different types of witches, and the very first one that I came up with was the Fey Witch. Now the Fey Witch primarily works with the Fae, with fairies or elves or dryads or sylphs, whatever you may encompass under the Fae realm. They work with those spirits either as a deity or they work with them as an elemental aspect within their practice as well. They practice Their entire practice is focused around the Fae. Many Fae practitioners are actually Celtic witches like myself. You don't have to be a Celtic witch to work with the Fae, but a lot of them who are Celtic witches will also work with the Fae since it is very much in our cultural background. Number 2 is the Elemental Witch. This is the witch that works with all of the elements: earth, air, fire, water, and spirit, thunder, all of the things that you can grasp as an element. They work with that as their basis of their practice. They generally use all of the elements that they can within each ritual as well. So they always have an offering of water or a representation of each element on their altar. Number 3 is either a solar or a moon witch, or you can be a solar and moon witch. These are witches that work with either deities that are of the moon and the sun or either, and they primarily work with this element. For me, I would say I fluctuate. I work with both. So in the summer, I always work with a solar deity. And in the winter, I always work with a moon deity, but I usually work with a moon deity throughout the year. I just very much more focus my practice on the sun energy since it's such a short amount of time that we have here in Canada that we get such warm weather. So I'd like to really focus on that area of work there. And that's where Aphrodite for me comes into play. Even though I'm a Celtic witch, I'm also an eclectic witch as well, who focuses on eclectic means as well as Celtic means. So I will work with majority Celtic deities and with the Fae, but for me, I also work eclectically and take bits and pieces of different things that resonate with me as a person as I grew up in the world that work for me, and I utilize it as my practice. You could also maybe say that I'm also a chaos witch in that instance, where I take things that resonate with me, and when they no longer resonate, I may replace them with something else from no matter where they came from in the world. Number 4 is the chaos witch, like I just mentioned. A chaos witch is actually a non-traditional person. They work outside of the box, and that is where their power stems from. They take things from different elements that suit them, and they incorporate them into one cohesive thing, one cohesive working and tradition and practice for themselves. And then very easily within that same instance, if it no longer works for them, if they've grown out of it, they throw that out and replace it with something that does work. And I just think that's something that is really good for most people. since you do not want to box yourself in. For myself, that's why I stopped doing labels for a long time, is because I did not want to feel boxed in based on that label and saying, oh, now I'm this. I used to call myself Wiccan, and I almost felt like I couldn't even stop practicing, because even though it wasn't working for me any longer and I didn't want to work within that realm of working, I felt like I was kind of trapped. So I try not to label myself more than just an eclectic witch, and if people do want to know more detail, I kind of go into detail about that in that way. But the Chaos Witch, it really does find its power in culminating bits and pieces from throughout history and throughout the world, and then easily being able to live in flux, and then that no longer works anymore for them, they throw it out and replace it with something new. Number 5 is the Kitchen Witch. Now, the Kitchen Witch may have a kitchen altar, they may or may not. They may also have a vegetable garden, a fruit garden, or a herb garden that they produce a majority of their food or some of their food from, and they actually incorporate their spell work into their cooking and into their meals and into their feasts that they offer their families and their friends and their community. It is really truly an art form, and they put their love, their blood, their sweat, and their tears into their workings and into their meals, and they use it as a means of healing, of blessing, and of love and affection. And in a lot of senses, you may be even an herbalist or herbalist. If you are a kitchen witch as well, you may be into growing your own vegetables and that kind of thing. That is what a kitchen witch does. Number 6 is a Draconic Witch, or a Draconian Witch. And actually one main example, which is a very famous example, and there are many very famous examples here on YouTube of a Draconic Witch. One of those being Dragonfeather. Azura Dragonfeather is a Draconic Witch. She focuses her practice on working with dragons as an entity. They use these sentient beings and worship them and center their workings along with them, and they meditate with them, and they seek guidance from these entities as a deity, and they worship them in that sense and look for guidance from these deities, and it's a very powerful and beautiful craft. Number 7 is what I'm going to categorize as the cultural witch, not to put any type of offense on the word cultural, because I am a cultural witch myself, but just to give you an explanation of kind of what it is. A lot of witches practice in the cultural sense. Some don't and some do. Some, like myself, practice as a Celtic witch, which also I do have Native American background, so I do have an indigenous background as well, which I center around my practice. There are kinetic witches, which focus themselves around Egyptian history. Also indigenous witches, as well as hoodoo, voodoo, and voodoo as an example of some of the many. There are many more that are also included under this cultural umbrella, but it's just as an example of a few that you can see that are a cultural witch, that spend their entire practice based around their religious workings as well. Number 8 is the Hedge Witch. The Hedge Witch actually lives in the liminal spaces. It does all of its workings on the astral plane. It does a lot of astral projection. Focuses on the spiritual and the out-of-body practices on the astral plane. It works with ancestors a lot of times, and it works on the spiritual plane, either working with ancestors or entities of the higher plane, angels and so on. Ancestors, angels, and spirits in general. Number 10 is the Necromancy Witch. They focus their practice around the dead. They work with a lot of spirits as well, very much like the Hedge Witch, but they focus on death and the beauty in it. They work a lot with bones and dirt and decaying things. Number 11 is a super fun one, is a pop culture witch. There are actually pop culture witches. I would probably define myself as one as well, since I've, as of recently, started working that into my practice for myself. A pop culture witch uses a personified deity. They would use, like, say, for example, for myself, I love Xena, the word princess. I have since I was a kid, and I would like to incorporate her attributes into my life and into my practice and my everyday living. So I use her as a personified deity. People do that through their tarot cards by using the Queen of Wands, or which have you, the Hierophant, as a personified deity, or as a personified energy force that they want to make change in their life. They may use that as an example. This is the same idea. You utilize what they may do in their life, if they were a living, breathing person in this life, and you incorporate that into your life. They may worship them or they may not. For me, I just utilize it into my practice and her type of energy, so that I can come into the world as I want to be seen in the world and how I want to represent myself. Number 12 is a green witch. Sorry, there is an ambulance going on outside, so just ignore that. If you hear it, just ignore it. Number 12 is a green witch. Now, a green witch is somebody who really loves the nature aspect, but they engulf themselves in it. They do majority, if not all, of their practice outside, and they make offerings to the earth. They may do a lot of earth cleanup and try to help the earth in that sense by helping reduce their footprints. They may do a lot of volunteering in that sense. They love to be surrounded by plants and green things and feel revitalized by the earth in that sense. They may have a lot of plant babies, a huge greenhouse, or may have dreams or ambitions of having one. They may also be interested in herbalism as well. Number 13 is the crystal witch. This is the witch where they practice the majority of their practice around crystals and minerals and stones from the earth. This is one, if she was a witch, a really good example would be the Hibiscus Rose on YouTube. I think it's her name. I'll link her in the channel below. She's actually a really excellent channel if you're looking to learn about crystals and crystal healing. She actually has a whole course on it on there. Definitely check her down below. But with Hibiscus Rose, if she was a witch, she'd probably center herself around crystals. She was a teacher and she taught about crystals and minerals, and she really vibes with their energy. So if you're a crystal witch, you probably have been collecting stones since you're little. You like to bring them home with you. You probably were able to identify a lot of them on your own through small research, that kind of thing, and you're able to utilize these different stones in your practice and make great change just by using stones and intention. And number 14 is the mental witch. The mental witch is really interesting, and it's actually how I started my practice when I first started making my way through the occult and learning about what witchcraft is and paganism and all of that. The mental witch actually works on the mental plane alone. They do not work on the physical. They have their altar on their mental plane. They can see everything vividly. They have an altar. They have maybe a cottage where they can meditate and practice. They may even have an entire world or a small town developed around the mental plane. A very good example of one of the witches that actually utilizes this practice. I don't know if she utilizes it, if she calls herself a mental witch. I don't think she does, but an example of a witch who uses this within her practice here on YouTube is actually Shadow Harvest on YouTube. She does this, she works in the mental plane quite a bit, and she actually has a whole little world, a little town that she works in, and she's able to project herself into and do a lot of her craft through there, or do a lot of spiritual work through that area, working with her deities as well. Number 15 is the Eclectic Witch. Like I said, you can be an eclectic witch, which means you can work from many of different types of practices and not label yourself under any of these labels at all. You can just take things that work for you, very much like a chaos witch, and make a practice of your own. So for an example, for me, actually going through all this kind of made me redefine my type of witch that I am. I would be an eclectic Celtic Fey witch who is also a cultural witch in my indigenous background and Celtic background as well, who's also a chaos witch, who's able to take things and work with the ebb and flow. So it's very similar with a chaos witch, where you're able to flow things in and out, but an eclectic witch is maybe a little bit more solid, and who is maybe able to be a little bit more defined, and is not able to as easily throw things out and replace them, in my opinion. That is the top 15 different types of witches that can be there. Again, it's by no means all of them. If you enjoyed this, definitely hit the like button below, and don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy my videos but are not yet subscribed to the channel, and definitely hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on all the awesome videos I'm actually uploading now Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And also keep note that we will be actually starting a challenge here soon. Starting on Monday, May 11th at 9 a.m. I'm starting a meditation challenge, which is a Witchy Basics meditation challenge, and I'm super excited about it. I've recently been able to update my guided meditation course, so I am now certified in that. And I decided to come up with this little bit of a challenge. It's a 5-week challenge. You're able to cultivate, either learn witchy basics or strengthen what you've already built for yourselves through the basis of meditation and the elements. Week 1 is going to be Earth, which is going to give you a lot of grounding and centering basics, and actually help to like really build a decent foundation. And y'all be guided through a meditation through each of these with me, and each of them will have a different focus. We'll also have a bit of some correspondences with the element that it's associated with, and you'll be introduced to the element through my meditation, and that's something that you'll work on every single day. You'll do the meditation every day for a week, and then do the small little suggested activities throughout that week, and build that strong witchy basics for yourself. So yeah, with that being said, week 1 is going to be Earth. Week 2 is Air. Week 3 is actually going to be in collaboration with my good friend Rebecca from Little Cosmic Crow. She'll be doing Water for me, and that will be posted up on her channel. And then we'll be having Fire by myself, and then Spirit by myself as well, and that will be on my channel. So if you want to check out the Water meditation, that will be on Rebecca's channel, Little Cosmic Crow. I'll have it linked down below as well once it is posted on the series. It'll probably be under the very first video, and all the videos to follow of the challenge starting May 11th, 2020. I am super excited for this, and I hope you guys do participate, and I will see you guys in the next video. Stay witchy, guys.